Welcome back, my beautiful friends, to another episode of The Reclamation. I am Paula Collins, your Magdalene Sound Priestess and spirituality mentor. Today, I want to share a conversation that I feel so many of us need right now. It's the difference between the doing phase and the being phase. So often we live in a culture that glorifies the doing, the endless checklists, the constant striving, the idea that if we're not producing something, we're falling behind. But what if I told you that the being phase is just as important and maybe even more sacred than just doing? Today, we're gonna explore these two phases, why they're essential, and how you can begin to balance them in your own life. So let me start off with a little personal share. Recently, I found myself in the doing phase. I was moving from one task to another, checking all the boxes, planning ahead, and constantly in motion. And then suddenly, I hit a wall. My body was tired, my spirit felt drained, and I knew I was being called into the being phase. And you know what? At first, it was so uncomfortable. My mind kept telling me, you need to be doing more. But when I allowed myself to sink into the being, to rest, to receive, to reconnect, I realized that this phase wasn't about stopping. It was about recalibrating. I think I've mentioned before that I am in this divine feminine business mastermind that I absolutely love. And I have something really big coming up in October that I can't wait to share with all of you soon. And all this learning that I am doing right now in this mastermind, all of the things that they are teaching us to do so we can be more successful, more organized, more streamlined. It's a lot to learn. I am used to just being in my flow and channeling and doing things that way. But this is the back end of my business. This isn't the fun, sexy part of my business. This is the back end. This is where all the other stuff happens. This is where I create funnels. This is where I create emails. This is where I get all the things connected, making sure that all of the buttons work and that when they work, they prompt the next thing to happen. And it's a lot. And I think I've shared before that I'm not quite so techie. And because of that, it's been a lot. So I am in the constant doing phase. On top of that, every week, I have new learnings that I have to go through, new videos, new journaling prompts, new actionable steps that I have to take. So I have been constantly in my doing, and I've been in the doing for a much longer span than I normally am. And sometimes I forget that I have the eye disability. And sometimes I forget that my poor little brain can only handle so much information input before it says, you know what, I need to take a break. And I noticed that constantly being on my laptop and having to read and having to research and having to go through all of the things has put a real strain on my brain. See, it doesn't matter if I wear the blue tint glasses or the red tint glasses. That doesn't matter. It's the amount of information that's going in this learning phase, in this doing phase. And I noticed that, oh my gosh, I have more blurriness during the day, and I have less ability to spend time in my doing because my eyes go blurrier. quicker. And I'm getting these headaches that are just in my eye area, so it's not a migraine. A friend of mine told me it's called an ocular headache because of the eye strain. But for me, it's more than that. And so I've been in this doing, and it's been a lot because I'm constantly checking my emails for the people that I've talked to that I want to come and speak at my free event that's coming up in October. And I am constantly checking to make sure I'm getting the forms in and all of the other stuff that goes with asking people to speak at your event. So there's a lot of screen time. So even if I'm not on my laptop, I'm on my phone. And that is a lot too. And I feel this need to get it all done. I feel this need to keep going. It's part of who I am when I'm in my doing phase. And because I'm a 1-3 generator in human design, I just keep going and going and going. The other thing that I noticed was the fatigue of all the doing started hitting me. When I was finally forced to take a break and to close down the laptop, close down my phone, and just go sit, I was hit with a wave of fatigue. Another way my body was saying, hey, you're doing too much. And it was hard for me to get out of the doing because in the past, prior to my accident in 2019, I could be in this doing phase for much longer periods of time. But now that's not the case. And so it keeps getting harder and harder and harder for me to do that. And so my body was forcing me to go into my being phase, to rest, to receive, and to reconnect, and to recalibrate. And this is big. This is important to remember. Because when we don't do the things that we are supposed to be doing and balancing between being in constant motion and planning and checking boxes and moving from one task to another to going into the being of resting, receiving, reconnecting, and recalibrating, when we're not balanced, it becomes very difficult. So when I say the doing phase, I'm talking about those seasons of our lives when but where we feel like we're in forward motion. Can you feel this? We're creating, we're building, we're striving, we're showing up, and we're making things happen. It's this time that is full of action. It's moving forward. It's outward energy. But the being phase is receptive. It's more inward. It's a quieter phase. It's a season of rest, as I said, reflection and presence. Okay? It's a season and a feeling of presence, being in the present. And it's about sitting with yourself. It's about allowing space. And it's about receiving instead of pushing. Allowing yourself to just be, putting on some, 432 or 528 hertz and receiving this nourishment. And during that reception, opening ourselves up to seeing what are our guides, what are our angels, what does the divine feminine and the divine masculine want us to know. It's about sitting with yourself. It's about stopping measuring ourselves. Boy, that was a lot to say. We stop measuring ourselves by productivity. And instead, we just allow ourselves to simply exist. both of these phases, the doing and the being, they're sacred. They're absolutely sacred. And both of these phases are very deeply needed and very deeply nourishing. But here's the thing. Doing without being leads to burnout. We disconnect from ourselves and we start running on empty. And it can make us feel stagnant. It separates us from our purpose. And the doing phase is like this outward breath, if that makes sense, right? We've taken this big inhale, maybe during our breathing phase, our being phase, and now we're exhaling. And it expresses, it creates, it expands. But if we stay in this phase too long, we become depleted. And when we're in the being phase, when we're in this inward breath, right, this deep inhale, we replenish, we nourish, we recalibrate. But if we stay in the being phase too long, we can become stagnant and disconnect from the momentum. And this is where it comes down to really listening to our bodies, to listening what it's saying, to being in tune with our own natural rhythm for both. Because when we do that, we create harmony and we move in flow instead of being in force. And here's what I really want you to take away. The being phase is not rested time. It is sacred time. It's when our nervous system heals, our intuition gets louder, and our soul integrates all that we've been creating. It's the invisible work, and it's deeply, profoundly productive. It's deeply, profoundly productive. So how do we honor both of these phases? Well, we have to notice where we are right now. We have to realize, am I in this season of doing or am I in a season of being? And if you're in your doing, schedule pockets of time for being in the being. Give yourself permission to rest, okay? The other thing to remember is that if you're in your being, trust that that is exactly where you're meant to be. And allow inspiration, and it may be purely divine inspiration, to return in its own time. Think of nature. I think the seasons do this really well. The seasons remind us of this dance. Spring and summer are for doing, fall and winter are for being. And we can normally tell what phase we're in by how our body and our spirit feel. If you are buzzing with ideas, if you're feeling like all this energy inside of you, like you want to dance, you just want to move, you're in your doing phase. But if you are craving quiet, if you are craving time alone, if you are craving just time to breathe, your body is saying, let's go into being. Let's go into being. And I think that that is important. So if you've been stuck in the doing, and we all know how that gets, right? We're sitting in front of the laptop or we're working on a project where we are completely and totally immersed in what we're doing. Maybe set an alarm for yourself on your phone. We always have our phones near us, so set an alarm for maybe every 45 minutes to an hour. And when the alarm goes off, if you're not in the middle of a meeting, get up and walk around. Get up and do some sun salutations, yoga. Go outside and get your feet in the grass. Right? Because when we do that, we give ourselves a moment to go into a being phase. And when we break our day up like this, it changes everything because we're nourishing ourselves so deeply. We are recalibrating so we can go back to our doing, especially if we need to be in the doing. Sometimes I just make a cup of tea, which is one of my favorite things, and I will drink it slowly and purposefully, just to break up the doing. Or if I decide, you know what, I haven't eaten yet today, how many of you can resonate and identify with this, I forget to eat when I'm in the doing? If I haven't eaten, and I realize that because I'm starting to get tired, I will close everything down, including my phone, and I will eat, and I will be present when I eat instead of being on my phone or watching TV. I'll just be present with me. See, that little break is enough from the doing to move me forward. And sometimes if you've been in the being too long, because we have those moments where we get into the being and we just want to be there because it feels so good. But you realize that you need to transition into doing one small step. So all you need is one small step. And once we take the small step, then we slowly move back into the doing. And balance doesn't mean it has to be 50-50 every day. Because that's not how nature works. I mean, all I have to do is look and walk outside right now. The fall equinox, had to think of the word for a second. The fall equinox hasn't even hit yet. And already, the end of August and this beginning to September, where I live in Ohio, has already cooled down and it's already giving me the fall vibes. So it's a dance. Sometimes one person leads and sometimes the other person leads. And if we think of it that way and we get into our flow that way, then we start to find the balance that we need, that we desire, and that we crave. So today, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself, what phase am I in right now? And how can I honor it fully without judgment and without rushing myself to be anywhere else? Because remember, we want to honor the phase that we're in without rushing. And when we realize if we're in this season of doing or this season of being, like I said, give yourself permission to honor it. Because when you honor both phases, the doing and the being, you step into a life of balance, nourishment, and flow. I just want to thank you all for being here today, for taking the time to stop what you're doing and to listen. I love when things come to my mind and I can share them with you because every little bit helps. And if you have taken something away from this that you can carry forward with you? Let me know in the comments. And if you have a friend that is stuck in the being or stuck in the knowing or the doing, share this episode with them. Because we're here to help each other. And we need people who are outside of what we are doing sometimes to help gently call us back in a way that is loving and nourishing and nurturing. So share it with them. Comment here. I love to read your comments. I love to hear how it's affecting you. And if you have ideas for things that you would like to hear me talk about, I invite you. I'll have my contact information in the show notes. I invite you to email me or to find me on social media and send me a message and say, hey, I was listening to the doing and the being, and I have some ideas of things I'd like to get your take on, because I would love to create a podcast that really speaks to things that are going on in your life and that you would like a little different perspective on. So until next time, I'm sending so much love to you, so much joy, and so much permission to be in the phase that you're in, to honor the phase that you're in. So until next time, have a beautiful day, and we'll talk again really soon. Bye-bye for now.